On the day of the betrothal, the groom absconded, and I, in a turn of events, wed a renowned ailing maiden in Beijing. Everyone was anticipating my becoming a widow. However, I guffawed heartily beside the sickly girl's bed. For my husband is such a comely fellow that he makes one tremble. Husband, endure. I yearn to have a son and a daughter with you. 1. On the day of the betrothal, I became a laughingstock in Beijing. Xiechan clasped Shanqing's hand and severed the engagement in the presence of our parents. Everyone ridiculed me. So what if my father is affluent? There are still no men who desire me. The engagement scene was in disarray, and I departed early in my own Rolls-Royce. I ensconced myself in the chamber and wept copiously. Xiechan and I are childhood sweethearts, and we are a well-matched pair. Our parents hit it off and verbally arranged a matrimonial alliance when we were 15 years of age. It was not until our senior year that we officially became engaged. I am cognizant that Xiechan has no inclination for carnal relations with me, yet I have truly been enamored of him for many years. Additionally, he is also lukewarm towards other damsels, and thus I have always felt that I am invariably a special case in his eyes. For instance, as long as I dispatch a message to him, he will await my return home together. For example, he will only prepare birthday presents for me. I have always believed that as long as I treat him with all my heart, he will assuredly fall in love with me. In the end, I did not await this day. He eloped with another. Ironically, Shenqing was my college roommate, a destitute student. I deemed her to be simple and kind-hearted, and I was closest to her. I introduced her to Xiechan. After weeping for an extended period, I failed to comprehend why Shenqing treated me in such a manner, and thus I promptly dispatched a message to her. Why do you not become another's paramour? Why do you desire to be my rival in love? Shenqing, have I not been benevolent enough to you? Why do you treat me thus? In less than a minute, Xiechan telephoned me. It was the first time he addressed me in such a disgusted and frigid tone. Xia Cici, Shenqing is not the mistress between us. I have never been fond of you. Everything is your wishful thinking. If you slander Shenqing as a mistress again, do not blame me for being discourteous to you. My tears cascaded even more torrentially. What do you mean by unilateral wishful thinking? Could the matrimony between our two families be finalized by my sole nod? If you had declined at the outset, would I have awaited to hang myself on your tree? I could hear Xiechan sneer across the telephone. Why did I not refuse? Others may be ignorant, but do you not know? If you had not engaged in certain deeds behind my back and entreated your father to exert pressure on my parents, would I have consented? If your father were not wealthy, do you believe there would be a man willing to wed you? A witless woman such as you is fated to be solitary. Xiechan terminated the call. I wept so convulsively that I was gasping for breath. So cruel. The childhood sweetheart I have cherished for so many years turned out to be such a scoundrel. At this moment, a pop-up advertisement caught my attention. The prince of the Qin family is on the verge of death. The Qin family is offering a substantial sum to hire a daughter-in-law. As long as you are willing to marry, you will be remunerated with 100 million immediately. When the person passes away, you will be bestowed with another 100 million. Qin Chusher, the prince of the Qin family, is a renowned invalid in the Beijing social circle. He has been undergoing treatment abroad for many years. Although people have not beheld him in person, they hear tidings of his critical illness from time to time. This time is the most severe. 3 days ago, the Qin family announced that Qin Chusher was dying and had flown back from abroad. The Qin family was presumably preparing for the funeral. Gazing at this advertisement, the Qin family was truly desperate and actually conceived of such a plebeian method as seeking someone to marry. 2. I ceased weeping, pondering over what Xiechan had just uttered. A wild idea germinated in my mind. Humph, who averred that no one would wed me, who claimed that I was doomed to be alone. Is there not a ready-made alternative? With the notion of giving it a try, I dialed the number in the lower right corner of the advertisement page. It was connected after a mere 2 rings. Hello, I am Qin Chusher. The voice was so hoarse, as expected of someone with one foot in the grave. I was stupefied for a moment, then I sniffled. Because I had just wept, my voice was somewhat nasal. Hello, Mr. Qin, I aspire to be your wife. My countenance was aflame. Inexplicably, I felt a trifle ashamed to utter this. Could he deem me a wanton woman? I promptly emphasized advertisement and application once more. The other party spoke after a protracted while, and his voice was still feeble. There are many who desire to apply to be my wife. Inform me, what are your virtues? I was brimming with confidence. I am not lacking in wealth. I can offer you a 10% discount on the remuneration you bestow upon me. Qin Chusher chuckled softly. It sounded delightful. Then he said, Very well, Mrs. Qin, bring your household register and send me the address. I will come to fetch you. 3. I dared not send the genuine address but dispatched that of an ordinary community 500 meters away from my villa community. I packed my luggage and deceived my father by stating that I was returning to school. Owing to my engagement, I had requested 2 days leave from my class teacher. Finally, I took my household register and ID card, and proceeded to the gate of the community to await Qin Chusher. In less than 20 minutes, a Maybach halted before me. The chauffeur alighted from the vehicle and walked towards me. Is it madam? He addressed me as madam even before we had obtained the certificate. As expected of his driver, he was as expeditious as he. I nodded with a flushed visage. The driver retrieved the suitcase from me, and assisted me in opening the rear door of the vehicle. Madam, if you please. I lifted my foot, stumbled, and tumbled directly into a man's embrace. Along with the faint aroma of Chinese herbal medicine, there was his rapid coughing. Madam, do you aspire to become a widow so expeditiously? I was so terrified that I extricated myself from the other person's arms, my face burning like fire. However, this still did not impinge upon my infatuation. Qin Chushur was attired in a light gray Republic of China-style gown and gold-rimmed spectacles. Although he appeared ailing, his countenance was astonishing. Every line was flawless. Owing to his severe illness, his noble and reserved mien was tinged with a potent sense of vulnerability. I even found it somewhat incredulous. Are you Qin Chushur? For a handsome man of this caliber, let alone not being deceased yet, even if he had closed his eyes, he would not have needed to advertise to recruit a wife, correct? Qin Chushur smiled faintly and nodded. I was almost smitten. I even felt that if I had encountered Qin Chushur earlier, what would that scoundrel Xiechan have been to me? I pivoted my head and regarded the window. My heart was palpitating incessantly. So, did I succeed in my application? Yes, Qin Chushur said. Madam is erudite and talented, surpassing countless women in the world. Is he certain that the person he is referring to is me? Although my school is highly renowned, I had to toil arduously to scarcely pass the admission notice by 2 points. Anyone in the school, if selected at random, is presumably more accomplished than I in knowledge and talent. I inquired of him with an awkward smile. Then, what should we do next? Obtain the marriage certificate. For, Qin Chushur is indeed a dying man. His alacrity in handling affairs left me dumbfounded. As soon as he obtained the certificate, he requested my bank card number and transferred 100 million to me. We promptly entered the vehicle, and I immediately snapped a photograph of the cover of the marriage certificate and dispatched it to Xiechan, who averred that no man was willing to wed me. I inform you, Xiechan, my husband is 10,000 times more handsome than you. Xiechan replied instantaneously. Xia Sisi, do not engage in this sort of game. Do not claim that you will marry immediately. Even if you were to perish immediately, I would not experience any sentiment. I felt so impotent. I was not incensed with Xiechan but with myself. Tears simply streamed down. Qin Chushur proffered me a tissue to wipe my tears. Madam, what ails you? I was not on my guard against him. He was dying. What malicious intentions could he harbor? I pitifully recounted the grievances between Xiechan and me. Naturally, in order to preclude him from conjecturing my identity, I did not mention Xiechan's name but merely substituted childhood sweetheart. Qin Chushur consoled me. Madam, do not be sorrowful. It is his loss that your childhood sweetheart does not desire you. Your husband will assist you in exacting revenge upon him later. I mused to myself, how will you avenge me? Can you endure until then? However, I did not voice this. I did not have the heart to wound him. I immediately nodded obediently. Very well, husband, I have faith in you. Merely with your visage, you can terrify him to death. Well, Qin Chushur suddenly extended his hand and grasped my chin. He gently exerted pressure, compelling me to pivot my head and regard him directly. I slowly muttered hello in my mind. He whispered in my ear and smiled softly. Madam, repeat those 2 words. What words? Husband. My face commenced to heat up. Ah, did I just utter such shameful words? It must be that he addressed himself as husband and led me astray. I pivoted my head away and was disinclined to say it. This was the second time that the young pup had made such a blunder. As a result, Qin Chushur sighed softly in my ear, and his voice sounded laden with vicissitudes and pitiable. Alas, madam, I possess only such a trifling wish. Can you truly not satiate me? Very well. I regarded him and obediently called him husband. He chuckled softly, and his profile was exquisitely beautiful. At this moment I suddenly thought, he is so handsome. It would be wonderful if he did not die. 5. Soon we arrived at the Qin family villa. Upon beholding me, Grandpa Qin was stupefied. Before I was 7 years old, the Qin family resided opposite my abode, and Grandpa Qin always delighted in teasing me. Subsequently, Grandpa Qin took Qin Chushur abroad, and we also relocated. I surmised that Grandpa Qin recognized me, and I concealed myself behind Qin Chushur with a modicum of guilt. Unexpectedly, he inquired, Chushur, who is this? Your granddaughter-in-law. Grandpa Qin's eyes widened. What? Repeat that? Qin Chushur retrieved the marriage certificate, the kind protected by law. Grandpa Qin covered his chest and retreated to the sofa, gasping for breath, clapping his hands and laughing. Very well, you rascal. I implore you to find a granddaughter-in-law every day, yet you simply refuse. It transpires that you already have someone in your heart? Very well, Grandpa does not demand much of you. Hasten to beget a great-granddaughter for Grandpa to cradle. Your grandpa has endured much in this life and has never tended to a little girl. I glanced at Qin Chushur. He had advertised the fact that he was expending a substantial sum to seek a daughter-in-law on the internet. Yet Grandpa Qin was ignorant of this? Suddenly he leaned against me feebly. Wife, I am so fatigued and lack strength. I raised my hand to summon the servant to assist, yet he shook his head. No, wife, I am a married man now. Men and women ought not to be in close proximity. I can only cleave to my wife. However, he was truly ponderous. I regarded Grandpa Qin. He merely adopted a Guyu-style pose. Well, granddaughter-in-law, I am incapable of taking care of myself. I could only embrace Qin Chushi's waist and assist him in ascending the stairs gradually. In the end, he pressed me down upon the large bed. I was almost crushed to death. I raised my hand to shove him and ultimately managed to turn over. However, he claimed that he was unwell and desired to bathe. He also entreated me to disrobe him. Is this not improper? Naturally, I declined. Qin Chushur evinced no intention of compelling me. He removed his spectacles and lowered his head to unfasten his clothes. He was not attired in anything beneath his long gown. His exposed skin was so fair and his collarbone was so exquisite. I stared at him intently, and my saliva was on the verge of flowing out. I regretted rejecting him just now. While I was cogitating on how to broach the subject to assist him, he suddenly covered his chest and coughed frantically. He almost coughed out his heart, liver and lungs. After coughing, he regarded me with a lackluster gaze. Madam, I comprehend. I interrupted him, feigning righteousness. Husband, permit me to disrobe you. I could not refrain from poking my hand. Husband, here I come. Then I stripped Chin Chusher down to a mere pair of shorts. 6. His physique is simply astonishing. His muscles are well defined, and he possesses 8 abdominal muscles. If he did not appear ailing, who would believe that he was dying? I also desired to strip Chin Chushy's trousers. I had already beheld it, so what if I glimpsed a little more? He seized my wrist with his hands, clutching the edge of my trousers. Madam, that suffices. Chin Chusher declined my ministrations and entered the bathroom alone. I was bored outside and had naught to do, and thus I retrieved my phone and perused my moments. As a result, I discovered the official announcement of Xiechan and Shanqing's moments, clasping hands tightly and donning couple rings. Moreover, the backdrop was a hotel. It goes without saying what these two were about to engage in today. I was so incensed. Xiechan, do you presume that you are the sole one with a paramour? I possess one as well, and mine is legitimate, is it not? I walked to the bathroom entrance. I was prepared to have a rollicking good time. Before I even opened the door, I was intimidated. I simply descended the stairs and procured a bottle of red wine. I seated myself on the bed, uncorked the bottle and imbibed. Alcohol truly emboldens the timid. When Chin Chusher emerged from the bathroom, I shed all my diffidence upon beholding him swathed in a bath towel. I rose to my feet and advanced towards him and commenced cuddling with him. Hubby, you are so comely. Through a veil of haze, I espied the look in his eyes as he regarded me, and there was an indescribable sentiment. Cece, desist. He tugged my hand to the bed and said, you ought to take a siesta first. Sleep, slumber. I embraced his waist and rubbed against it. Very well, hubby. Let us engage in amorous activities together. I care not. I cannot be vanquished by Xiechan. I cannot have imbibed this wine in vain. He endeavored to repel me. Xia Cece, are you cognizant of what you are doing? I tilted my head backward and kissed his exquisite chin. I am aware, Chin Chusher. We obtained the marriage certificate today. This is our nuptial night. His voice was somewhat gritted. Exceedingly good. 7. It was already 11 o'clock in the forenoon when I awoke the following day. Contemplating the scene of the previous night and sensing the ache throughout my body, I felt wretched. Oh my heavens, I actually consummated the relationship with him. After rising, I discovered that Grandpa Chin and Chin Chusher were absent. I inquired of the servants and learned that they had repaired to the hospital. I felt even more culpable. Chin Chusher was on the verge of death, and I had still clung to him. Now his condition is more severe, is it not? I lacked the temerity to behold them for the time being. I dispatched a text message to Chin Chusher to tender my apologies and then limped away. When I returned to the dormitory, all my roommates were present. Shenqing was chatting and laughing with Chanlu and Li Zhao. Upon espying me, she immediately evinced an apologetic mien and approached to clasp my hand. Cece, regarding Xiechan's affair, I vow I truly did not intend it. I simply could not restrain myself. Could not restrain myself? Why had I not previously realized that Shenqing was so brazen? I raised my hand and shoved her away. Although I did not exert much force, she staggered back 2 paces and collided with the small table adjacent. She toppled the water cup on the table, which was filled with boiling water, and scalded her hands crimson. Why are you thus? Chanlu and Li Zhao walked over to inspect Shanqing's hand and were highly dissatisfied with me. However, Shanqing asseverated that it was not my fault, that it was all her culpability. After all, Xiechan was my fiancé. What fiancé? What era is this? Are arranged marriages still extant? Li Zhao said. Any of us with eyes can perceive that Xiechan does not cherish Xia Cece at all. Let me inform you, Shanqing, you are hundreds of times superior to her. What else does she possess aside from wealth? Precisely. Chanlu also said. Her academic performance is the poorest in our class. Were she not affluent, would she be betrothed to Xiechan? Xiechan is correct. He ought to rescind the engagement with her. Whoever weds a woman such as she will be unfortunate. Come, Shanqing, let us repair to the infirmary. Your hand is scalded and requires treatment. I was so enraged that I laughed. What do they imply? I have wealth and thus I am culpable, is that it? Just after I had packed my belongings, Xiechan telephoned and entreated me to await him at the dormitory entrance. From his tone, it was evident that he had come to remonstrate with me. Very well, I had naught to fear. I descended the stairs with my phone. At the dormitory entrance, Xiechan and Shanqing were together. As soon as he beheld me, Xiechan pointed at me and said, you must tender an apology to Shanqing. Xiechan and I are both luminaries in the school, and many are cognizant that we are betrothed. Now that we are together, Xiechan even posted a missive on Moments, and many came to witness the spectacle. Some individuals retrieved their phones to snap photographs. I inquired of Xiechan, why should I apologize to her? Why? You scorched her hand in this manner. Why do you say so? I am not apologizing. She collided with it herself. Xiechan chastised me, averring that I was willful and unreasonable. It was correct to rescind the engagement with you. Must you employ this matter to nauseate me? My eyes were inflamed with wrath. He beckoned to the onlookers. Very well, everyone, judge for yourselves. Xiechan and I were verbally betrothed by our parents when we were 15. If he did not desire it, he ought to have declined earlier, correct? I customarily enjoy pestering Xiechan, yet he did not inform me that he was fond of Shanqing. They were surreptitious, and I was unaware until the day of our engagement. We have been together for such an extended period. Why did you hold a blade to his throat? Did he have to disclose it on the day of our engagement? Perhaps because he did not anticipate that I would voice this in the presence of so many. Xie Chen's visage paled with anger. It is merely that I underestimated Shen Qing. Shan Qing immediately burst into tears. Cici, you may slander me, but you cannot slander Xie Chen. Xie Chen has apprised you privately on numerous occasions that he desired to rescind the engagement. Have you forgotten? I sneered at Shan Qing. Xie Chen also stared slightly and regarded her in disbelief. Shan Qing continued. Cici, Xie Chen informed me that he regarded you as his sister and spared your feelings. He hoped that you would broach the matter of rescinding the engagement. It was you who did not wish him to do so, and thus he was compelled to take the initiative to rescind the engagement. He treats you so benevolently. How could you act in this manner towards him? Shen Qing regarded Xie Chen. Correct, Xie Chen? I also regarded Xie Chen. I was awaiting his response. He compressed his lips with a pallid visage and ultimately regarded me with a complex mien and nodded slowly. Yes, that is the case. 8. I suddenly did not experience any sorrow whatsoever, because the Xie Chen before me is no longer the lad I cherish. The one I cherish would never besmirch another. I regarded him with a smile, and even my voice softened. I thank you for permitting me to perceive clearly that you are such a scoundrel, and also for allowing me to retrace my steps and discover my own other half. I hope you can maintain a distance from me in the future, for I am already wed. I retrieved the marriage certificate from my bag and flung it directly at Xie Chen's visage. I implore you not to aver that I am pestering you in the future. Xie Chen was stupefied for a moment, then knitted his brows and opened the marriage certificate. Beholding the photograph, he furrowed his brows even more. Xia Cici, do not presume that I will take any action against you merely because you found someone to pose for a photograph and fabricated a marriage certificate. I said, do you desire to peruse my husband's name? He glanced downward and was stupefied anew. Qin, first acquaintance. Xie Chen's eyes suddenly became more perturbed. Beholding his expression, I regarded Shan Qing with a mischievous look. It appears that his feelings for Shan Qing are not as steadfast as I had imagined. I took the marriage certificate and pivoted to walk towards the dormitory. Xie Chen suddenly seized me. Are your parents cognizant of this? So what if they are? So what if they are not? Xie Chen was agitated. Xia Cici, can you converse amicably? Are you ignorant of who he is? Are you demented? You can wed anyone else but you must marry him? Do you aspire to become a widow? I shook his hand off. His expression was frigid. What, your excrement? 9. I had presumed that I had achieved a magnificent comeback in the presence of Xie Chen. Unexpectedly, I became the laughingstock of the entire school. The following day, the entire school was abuzz with gossip. They averred that I had simply wed an old man because I was enraged at Xie Chen and Shan Qing's being together. Xia Cici truly has naught but wealth. If she possessed a modicum of intelligence, she would not have wed an old man. Precisely why is she so obtuse? Chan Lu and Li Zhao also insinuated me in the dormitory. They said that it was no wonder that Xie Chen did not cherish me. It transpired that I was deranged and had a singular vision. I was truly incensed. Qin Chusher was so comely. How could he be an old man? Can you locate such a handsome old man for me and attempt it? I truly desired to post Qin Chushi's photographs on the internet to permit them to behold what it means to be supremely handsome. However, I did not possess any photographs of him. The photographs of him on the internet had all his visage mosaicked. I planned to return to the Qin family abode on the weekend. I vow that I would not be human if I did not capture some handsome photographs of him. Unexpectedly, my parents arrived the following day. They intercepted me at the entrance just after my open class. Behind them was Xie Chen. As soon as I beheld Xie Chen, I had a premonition that something untoward was about to transpire. Verily, my mother tugged me over. Let us repair to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Why? Divorce. My mother whispered. Cici, you are the darling of mother and father. How could you wed Qin Chusher? Xie Chen must have overheard what my mother said, and he regarded me with a modicum of pride. I glared at him, pouted and shook my head. No, I object. I do not desire a divorce. Qin Chusher is my husband, and my husband is Qin Chusher. My mother stamped her foot in exasperation. Oh Cici, have you been drugged by Qin Chusher? Who in our circle is ignorant that he will not endure long? Mother is cognizant that you are wrathful with Xie Chen, but you cannot jest with your life's event when you are angry, correct? I was highly resolute. I did not. I tugged my mother's sleeve. Mother, you have not beheld him. If you do, you will cherish him as well. My mother and I are both senior members of the Appearance Association. Merely beholding Qin Chushi's visage, let alone his being half dead, even if he were deceased, my mother would assuredly cherish him. My mother was highly obstinate. How is it possible? How could I cherish a sickly son-in-law? At this juncture, mother-in-law, it is not presumptuous for me to address you thus, correct? 10. I had not anticipated that Qin Chusher would arrive. He was accompanied by the driver from the previous day. He was attired in a gray suit and was not wearing spectacles. His visage was still not comely, yet he appeared considerably less vulnerable than the previous day, noble and elegant. When my mother beheld him, her eyes sparkled. Who are you? Mother-in-law, I am Qin Chusher. My mother regarded me. My mother and I regarded each other. I could perceive that my mother was highly excited. She was mouthing, is Qin Chusher so comely? I smiled and nodded. My mother raised her hand and stroked her bosom. Well, Xiao Qin, since you are here, I will not permit Cici to address you thus. You are an intelligent individual. You are cognizant of why I am here, correct? Xiao Qin, so soon? Qin Chusher nodded. Yes. He lowered his eyes. I am aware. Cici is so endearing and flawless. I am utterly unworthy of Cece. Have no concerns. I respect every decision of Cece. Oh this. My mother appeared reluctant. Do not say that. You are highly handsome. My Cece is not as flawless as you aver. This young girl has numerous flaws. Oh. My mother instantaneously changed her mind. In truth, I do not deem it impossible for Cece to wed you. The medical level is so advanced nowadays. Your health is not beyond hope, and life is replete with miracles everywhere. Xiachen was astounded. My father was also astounded. Wife, we are here to rescue our daughter, not to thrust her into the fire. My mother was disgruntled. So you are querying me? No. I chuckled secretly. My father would never be able to prevail over my mother. My mother nodded. No, that is excellent. She regarded Qin Shusher and smiled. Let us leave it at that. However, since you two are already wed, the requisite steps must be taken, especially the wedding. You cannot disappoint my Cece. Select a time, and you and Cece come to my abode together. Oh, by the way, summon your grandfather, and we shall deliberate on the wedding. After that, my mother was on the verge of departing. Xiachen summoned her. Auntie, did you truly consent to permit Cece to wed him? My mother was vexed. Not wed him but wed you? Did I compel you to sever the engagement with a firearm yesterday? Xiachen, I asseverated at the time that there are many who desire my Cece. If you ruin this marriage, do not rue it. My father and mother departed. Xiachen was left standing there with a pallid visage. At the entrance of the open classroom, a group of onlookers blocked the passage. Among them was Shenqing. Her visage was also highly uncomely. However, she could feign. Soon she walked towards me with a smile. Cece, is this your husband? What ails him? Is he not in good health? I retreated a step. My husband is in good health, and he does not require your solicitude. Xiachen's visage paled even more. I hastily tugged Qin Shusher away. Xiachen and Shenqing were such a wretched pair. They were truly ill-fated. I unwittingly tugged Qin Shusher to the grove. I was ignorant of where the driver who had trailed me the entire way had absconded. I was apprehensive that he was fatigued, and thus I tugged him to locate a chair to seat himself. I thank you for today. I was severely assailed on the school forum. People were averring that I had wed an old man. Hey, I finally achieved a modicum of pride. Qin Chushi's countenance can vanquish all the so-called male deities in our school in an instant. Qin Shusher chuckled softly, and then he inquired of me with his profile. Cece, do you still hold affection for Xiachen? 11. I did not vacillate. How could it be? I could inveigh against Xiachen for 800 years. I must have been truly blind in the past. I actually fancied such a scoundrel as he. If you are fond of Shenqing, then be fond of Shenqing. Would it not have been better to apprise me directly? It was truly a waste of my time. Qin Shusher nodded in concord. I regarded his expression, and he did not seem desirous of inquiring about anything pertaining to Xiachen. Did he truly not care, or have you been cognizant of Xiachen and my betrothal for an extended period? Qin Shusher raised his hand and pinched my visage. Yes. How could I be ignorant of Xia Cece from the Xia family? I rose in anger. You knew it was I from the outset? Yes. Qin Shusher said. Madam, the address is distinctly inscribed on your household register. I had deemed myself astute and was momentarily rendered speechless. I inquired of Qin Shusher whether he was truly going to my abode to deliberate on the nuptials with my parents this weekend. Naturally, you and I shall only wed once in our lifetime, and it must be a momentous affair. Why only once? I may not be content with a single instance. Oops, I inadvertently uttered what was in my heart. Qin Chushi's countenance suddenly altered, and he tugged me over, pressed the back of my head and kissed me. He was ostensibly ailing, so why was it I, rather than he, who was gasping for breath and ultimately on the verge of asphyxiation? After I had replenished my oxygen, he regarded me anew. Cece, do not even contemplate marrying another. I will not afford you this opportunity. I was stupefied for a moment. Then my eyes widened. My voice quivered. You Qin Shusher, you would not desire me to perish with you, would you? His visage darkened. Then he embraced me and repeatedly asseverated that he did not harbor such an idea and was highly earnest about it. Only then did I believe him and that he would not imperil my life. Oh, I am deeply grateful. 12 Qin Shusher had originally intended to convey me back to the Qin family abode to slumber. I resolutely declined. My aged legs are still aching at present, and I cannot endure his antics. He escorted me out for a candlelit repast and bestowed a necklace upon me. Upon returning to the dormitory, Shenqing's gaze alighted directly upon the necklace adorning my neck. Cece, your necklace is so resplendent. Did your husband present it to you? I become vexed if I so much as glance at Shenqing, and I cannot even be bothered to pay her any heed. Behind my back, Li Zhao remonstrated with me. Why are you feigning? It is merely a few filthy lucre, is it not? I said to her. If you deem it filthy, then refrain from undertaking internships or seeking employment. What is the point of toiling arduously to earn filthy money? I earned my hard-earned wealth, unlike you, a parasite. Chan Lu and Li Zhao frequently employ parasite to describe me. We are all collegians, and our tuition and living expenses are all defrayed by our progenitors. My parents bestow more, and thus I am a parasite, and they bestow less, and thus they are noble? If you possess the wherewithal, do not solicit a single penny from your parents. I have responded to them in this manner on numerous occasions previously, but today I have a novel means of retort. I located the text message of my bank card. It was the one in which Qin Shusher transferred 100 million to me. Then I recited it using the voice software. When the transfer amount of 100 million manifested, I promptly exited the voice software. I was apprehensive that my balance would cause them to lose the will to live. Forgive me, do not denominate me a parasite in the future. for my husband is also highly munificent. He can effortlessly bestow upon me pocket money of 100 million. This stratagem is truly efficacious. The three of them evinced envy in their eyes. I regarded Shenqing and smiled anew. Naturally, you need not be envious of me. Xie Chen's family is also highly affluent. It is not infeasible for you to act coquettishly and induce him to bestow several million upon you. When you wed him, you will possess more wealth. Shenqing immediately laughed unnaturally. What drivel are you spouting? I am with Xie Chen not for his wealth. 13 What I imparted to Shenqing was actually a pure satire upon her. However, I did not anticipate that Shenqing would take my words to heart. Xie Chen approached me to solicit a loan the following day. Cici, could you lend me 500,000? Haha, the manner in which the Xie family educates Xie Chen is utterly disparate from my family's mode of rearing me. I was nurtured in opulence, yet Xie Chen the scion was reared in penury. Let alone 500,000, he could not even produce 10,000 yuan. Naturally, I would not lend it to him. Seek your mother, Xie Chen said with embarrassment. If it were I who desired 500,000, I would assuredly seek my mother. However, it is Shenqing. Her mother has brain cancer, and thus at least this amount needs to be readied. You are also cognizant of the circumstances of her family. Cici, I am aware that you are wrathful with me, but presently human life is at stake. I scarcely managed to gain admission to this university. However, I am not obtuse. I had merely uttered those words to Shenqing yesterday, and today her mother has brain cancer? No. Xie Chen knitted his brows and regarded me. Cici, you have metamorphosed. You were not so heartless previously. I nodded. You have also changed. You were not so witless before. We regarded each other and then I pivoted first. Shenqing was the sole occupant of the dormitory. She was viewing a variety show and laughing merrily. I closed the door. Shenqing, your mother has brain cancer. Yet you are still so jubilant? Her visage altered. How did you become aware? Naturally, I am aware, for Xie Chen solicited a loan from me. I spread my hands. However, I did not lend it. How could he solicit a loan from you? I deceived her. Shenqing, Xie Chen is so enamored of you. Did he not disclose the truth to you? Why do you believe his family desires to marry into mine? Because my family is affluent, yet my family is on the verge of bankruptcy. I informed Shenqing that if she did not believe it, she should examine Xie Chen's bank card. If the funds in his card exceeded 10,000 yuan, then I would forfeit. Shenqing's visage immediately manifested numerous intriguing micro-expressions. Then she said obstinately, Xia Cici, why are you imparting this to me? I am fond of Xie Chen as a person, not his wealth. Very well, I am cognizant. Thus, I wish you and Xie Chen are indissolubly bound. I clambered onto the bed. Shenqing was still viewing the variety show. There were intermittent peals of laughter from the computer, yet she never laughed in unison with them. I am aware that Shenqing will assuredly not relinquish her pursuit of wealth from Xie Chen. However, she is so impatient that she can only ensnare herself in a quagmire. Xie Chen was blinded by love, yet his mother was not. 14. Verily, Aunt Xie greeted her on WeChat moments the following day. I have suspended Xie Chen's card. If he solicits a loan from you, please disregard him. If anyone borrows money, even if it is a mere dollar, we will resolutely sever ties. Aunt Xie acted with alacrity, and Xie Chen soon depleted his funds. Less than a week later, I espied Xie Chen and Shenqing in the cafeteria. You are cognizant that he is highly fastidious and never dines in the cafeteria. Shenqing utilized her own card to procure 3 meat dishes and 2 vegetarian dishes for Xie Chen. She also consoled him. It is all my fault for severing the betrothal. Tomorrow is Saturday. Return home and assist me in tendering an apology to Auntie. Auntie is your mother, and she will not disregard you. Xie Chen's expression mollified. I was on the verge of laughing maniacally in my heart. If this ruse proves efficacious, I forfeit. After Xie Chen departed, I hastened to Shenqing to add fuel to the fire. Shenqing, do you truly believe that Xie Chen's mother will not bestow money upon him? He is the sole heir. Shenqing's family is indigent and patriarchal. When we were on amicable terms previously, she apprised us of her family. She was more or less tainted by her family's ideology and deemed that men are the paragons. Merely because Xie Chen is the sole heir, she can absolutely not fathom that his mother will not bestow money upon him. Verily, Shenqing's visage immediately fell. The following day I desired to repair to the Qin family abode, but when I considered that Xie Chen was returning, I bade farewell to Qin Chusher and returned to my own domicile. As soon as I approached the entrance of my abode, I beheld Xie Chen standing at the entrance of the villa across the street. Aunt Xie opened the door and flung a bag out directly. Xie Chen, are you not remarkable? Will you rue the betrothal if you become capable? You are so capable, what ails you? Depart and earn your own livelihood. Do not cause me to hold you in contempt. After uttering that, Aunt Xie closed the door with a bang. Xie Chen pivoted and beheld me. His expression was somewhat rigid. I walked over and whispered in his ear. Xie Chen, do you desire to wager? You lack funds and in Shenqing's eyes you are not. You will soon be discarded by her like refuse. Xie Chen said obstinately that it was impossible. I am cognizant of Shenqing. Although she lacks wealth, she is not haughty or impatient. She is not the species of vain woman. I retreated a step. Xie Chen, prior to your regretting the betrothal, I did not anticipate that you would become embroiled. For privately, Shenqing invariably extolled you and me as a match made in heaven. I shall await your regret. I pivoted and pushed open the door of my abode. I beheld Qin Chusher standing in front of the window, regarding me intently. Hey, why is he here? 15. I was inexplicably elated. I entered the abode, changed my footwear, and hastened towards Qin Chusher. Why did you not apprise me? His visage was not comely. I raised my hand and caressed his visage. Where do you experience discomfort? He compressed his lips. What did you impart to him? I was stupefied for a moment, somewhat astonished. You are not jealous, are you? Qin Chusher did not demur. Yes, I am jealous. Why is it illicit to be jealous of one's own wife? I truly did not anticipate that he would utter that. I had always deemed that my matrimony to him was merely an accident. Oh my heavens, I am truly highly alluring. You have fallen in love with me so expeditiously. I was complacent. Qin Chusher, you truly possess a discerning eye. Qin Chusher seemed somewhat at a loss for words. In the dining hall, my mother glowered at me. Very well, Xia Sisi, desist from being so conceited there and hasten to dine. My mother summoned Qin Chusher again. It was that the tone was instantaneously 100 times more gentle. Xiao Qin, come and dine. Aye. Fortunately, my father was somewhat brusque with Qin Chusher. After all, my mother was not as tender with him as with Qin Chusher. You are so aged. Yet you still require your mother-in-law to summon you for a meal? Hasten. After the repast, Qin Chusher and I departed from my abode together. He conveyed me to the school in his vehicle because there was a class meeting in the evening. Before departing, he kissed me on the mouth. It is irksome to have a wife who attends school. I inquired of him why it was irksome. He raised his eyebrows and inquired of me in return. What do you surmise? Qin Chusher did not elaborate, yet my visage was inexplicably flushed. I hastened away. The following weekend, Qin Chusher telephoned at 8:30 in the morning. I had not yet awakened and my voice was nasal, yet his voice was clear. Madam, I shall awake you at the school gate at 9 o'clock. What? À rendez-vous. I abruptly sat up. My heart was palpitating with great rapidity. À rendez-vous? I have never partaken in a rendezvous in my life. Why did you not disclose it earlier? Had you done so, I would have procured a new dress yesterday. Qin Chusher smiled. There is no necessity. Your husband will procure it for you. Very well, my visage flushed anew. 16. I donned a petite white dress and applied a modicum of makeup. As soon as I arrived at the school gate, I beheld the Maybach at the entrance. Many were observing this luxury vehicle, and some were snapping pictures frenetically. Shen Qing, Chan Lu and Li Zhao were also stationed beside it. I walked over and happened to overhear Chan Lu sighing. It is so felicitous to be affluent. A vehicle costs millions. I am ignorant of when I can amass such wealth. Li Zhao also said, yes, I truly envy the rich second generation. The two of them then teased Shen Qing anew. You are still the preeminent. Xiechen's family is so affluent. When you wed Xiechan, entreat him to procure a Maybach for you. It was highly amusing. They were invariably begrudging the rich in my presence, yet they ultimately ended up envying the rich. I shoved them aside. It is facile to amass 1,000,000. Now return to slumber and you shall possess everything in your dreams. As I spoke, I opened the car door. Honey, my apologies for the delay. The Maybach drove away. The countenances of the three individuals were growing increasingly somber. I laughed uproariously in the vehicle, and Qin Chusher was disgruntled. He pivoted my visage. Madam, you have not regarded me for 3 minutes. Qin Chusher was attired in a white shirt and black trousers today, looking more mature than customary. Very well, honey. I am about to regard you now, correct? I changed the subject and inquired of him what he had planned for the day. I have no plans. Qin Chusher said. I desire to heed you. Very well. I am more than competent to arrange such affairs. However, considering Qin Chushi's physical condition, I selected a mode of entertainment that combined work and leisure, and did not necessitate excessive exertion. First, we partook of breakfast, then hastened to the playground to seize dolls and indulged in some snacks. Then it was lunch. We selected a barbecue restaurant, and after the barbecue, we proceeded to purchase habiliments and jewelry. We arrived empty-handed and departed laden. I was reluctant to permit Qin Chusher to bear the burden, and thus I carried it all myself. As soon as I exited the square, I beheld an acquaintance. It was Xiechan. When I beheld Xiechan, I was stupefied for a moment, for he was actually distributing flyers. I did not plan to approach to greet him, yet Qin Chusher walked directly over. Bestow one upon me. Xiechan glanced upward and beheld Qin Chusher, and his expression underwent a transformation. I trailed after him and said, permit me to assist you as well. After accepting the flyer, I led Qin Chusher away. After proceeding a few paces, Qin Chusher halted and regarded me askance, and his long eyelashes quivered slightly. Sisi, do you harbor a modicum of affection for me? I flushed crimson. This fellow is so forthright. Naturally. I stood on tiptoe and kissed him. You are so amiable and comely. How could I not be fond of you? 17. I did not return to school that night and accompanied Qin Chusher back to the Qin family abode. As soon as I entered the house, he enfolded me in his embrace, hurled me upon the sofa and commenced kissing. His fierce mien induced me to clasp him, and I inquired of him, panting, are you truly terminally ailing? He immediately commenced coughing. Yes, I am in a state of ill health. Madam, assist me upstairs. Grandpa Qin suddenly emerged from the balcony on the second floor. I blushed and escorted Qin Chusher back to the chamber. Gazing at him reclining upon the bed, exhausted, I was suddenly assailed by a tinge of melancholy. Qin Chusher, are you truly beyond hope? He nodded solemnly. The following day, I entered the classroom, yawning. I located a seat and reclined upon the table. I indistinctly overheard those around me gossiping. Hey, did you peruse the forum? Xiechan was actually distributing flyers in Times Square. Impossible? Is it not averred that his family is highly affluent? Perhaps he repaired there to experience life? How could that be? I heard from my sister that Xiechan solicited $100 from his roommate yesterday. I abruptly awakened and regarded Shan Qing with my head propped up in a teasing manner. Shan Qing's visage was highly uncomely. Suddenly someone inquired of me, "Are you cognizant of what has befallen Xie-chan?" I noted that Shan Qing inclined to the side, evidently overhearing this. I smiled and said, "The Xie family is engaged in business just like my family. The larger the business, the greater the risk. It is not astonishing that they face bankruptcy." Thus, with a single utterance from me, the rumors of Xie-chen's bankruptcy proliferated with increasing vehemence. On the school forum, someone also derided Shan Qing. Shan Qing purloined Xia Cici's paramour and presumed that she was with a rich second-generation scion, yet he has gone bankrupt. She is truly not fated to be wealthy. When I beheld this sentence, I mentally marked a check. Based on my observations of Shan Qing in the past few days, she ought to sever ties with Xie-chan post-haste. She is indeed not fated to be a wealthy wife. 18. I was correct. Shan Qing discarded Xie-chan with great celerity. I was fortunate and fortuitously chanced upon them in the grove and witnessed a gratis live broadcast. Xie-chan inquired of Shan Qing why? Is it because I lack funds? Shan Qing was highly mercenary. Xie-chan, bereft of money, was worthless in her eyes. She was too indolent to feign otherwise. Yes, Xie-chan, why should I consort with you if you lack wealth? Do you believe I am interested in distributing flyers with you? I have endured penury for over 20 years, and I have no desire to remain impoverished. So do you cherish me or my wealth? I cherish you because you are affluent. Shan Qing smiled jubilantly. You are rich, yet without the prefix you are imperfect. Xie-chan maintained silence for an extended period and uttered a single word to Shan Qing. Begone. Shan Qing departed and Xie-chan crouched on the spot and hugged his knees. Faintly, I overheard his weeping. I walked over, not to console him. Xie-chan, you have reaped what you have sown. He glanced upward at me, his eyes somewhat bewildered, and then boundless anguish emerged. I am contrite, Cici, I was in error. This scene was truly gratifying. Xie-chan rose to his feet and inquired of me if I could pardon him. I will never absolve you, I said. However, I am highly grateful to you. Were it not for you, how could I have wed such an estimable husband? Piercing the heart. Xie-chan's visage became even paler. I pivoted and departed, cogitating upon Qin Chusher, and the more I ruminated, the more elated I became. I could not refrain from telephoning him. His voice was somewhat feeble. Madam, Qin Chusher, I am somewhat wistful for you. I overheard him chuckling. My husband is likewise. I inquired of Qin Chusher if I had not applied for the position that day, and someone else had applied, would I not be Madam Qin? No. Qin Chusher said, Xia Cici, I solely desire you. My heart palpitated with greater rapidity, and I vaguely sensed that something was amiss here, yet I could not fathom it. What is transpiring? Well, I shall apprise you later. 19. The following afternoon, the classroom was rife with rumors. It was averred that Xie-chen's family was not bankrupt at all. Today he drove a sports car to school and invited the entire class to dine. They repaired to a self-service seafood restaurant with an average price of 398 per person. Chun Lu and Li Zhao promptly tugged Shin Qing. Shin Qing, that is wonderful. Xie-chen's family is not bankrupt. You shall lead a felicitous life in the future. Shin Qing's visage was rigid, and she regarded me blankly. I spread my hands. Uttering not a word was sufficient to render her visage pallid. Then she lowered her head and retrieved her mobile phone. She must have been messaging someone. Soon, I am ignorant of what she beheld, but a faint smile materialized on her countenance. After class in the afternoon, Shin Qing repaired to the classroom adjacent. Today, Xie-chen's class happened to have an open class beside ours. She stationed herself at the entrance and soon awaited Xie-chen's emergence. Beholding Xie-chen, I was stupefied for a moment. He had altered his coiffure and trimmed it into a crew cut. He appeared less immature than previously, more mature and indifferent. When Shan Qing beheld him, she walked over and clasped his hand. She seemed so intimate, as if it were not she who had severed ties with Xie-chan the previous night. Xie-chan pivoted his head to regard her, smiling. Who are you? Shan Qing was stupefied. Xie-chan, did you not request that I come to you? Oh, that is correct. Xie-chan slapped his forehead. I nearly forgot. He summoned everyone. Hey, permit me to introduce everyone. This is Shan Qing, my former paramour. Shan Qing's visage altered, and she regarded Xie-chan in disbelief. Xie-chan seemed not to notice her. My former paramour beheld me distributing flyers yesterday, and she departed without bidding me farewell. She severed ties with me last night. Xie-chan shoved Shan Qing away. Thus we have severed our relationship. What are you doing now? Shan Qing is indeed a master of histrionics. Tears cascaded immediately. So pitiable. Xie-chan, I have my reasons. My mother. She is dying, is she not? Xie-chan said. I neglected to inform you. Last night, I clung to my last vestige of hope and telephoned your mother. I was concerned about your mother's condition, yet she chastised me. Shan Qing was bereft of words. Xie-chan smiled and walked past her. Finally, he halted before me. He was ostensibly conversing with Shan Qing, yet his eyes were fixed upon me with a tinge of melancholy. Shan Qing, I thank you for permitting me to perceive how sinister people can be. I shall amass a great deal of wealth in the future, yet not for you. I did not even blink. You desire to move me? Impossible. Xie-chan departed with alacrity. Shan Qing hastened to me, weeping, and inquired of me why I had deceived her. Deceive? I laughed. Shan Qing, I learned it from you. As I spoke, I beheld Chun Lu and Li Zhao stationed behind Shan Qing. The smile on my countenance deepened. The smiles at the corners of the mouths of these two good sisters of Shan Qing could scarcely be concealed. Thus, birds of a feather flocked together. Qing treats others without any sincerity. How could she attract anyone? 20. Someone filmed a video of Qing being mocked by Xia and posted it on the school forum. She immediately became the target of derision, the synonym of gold digger in the school. Qing was so incensed that she wept in the dormitory and asseverated that she would assuredly be treated differently. I am a destitute student, so what? I am also capable of amassing wealth. Not long after, Qing engaged in another deed. She commenced possessing luxury brand habiliments and luxury brand bags. During class, I overheard many expressing suspicion of her. Naturally, they were all malevolent suspicions. I was indifferent. I am unconcerned about when Qing obtained her money. I am solely cognizant of one thing. Acquisition and contribution may not be commensurate. However, without contribution, it is impossible to obtain something out of thin air. Soon I became aware of the origin of Qing's money. Online loans. Because in less than 2 months, many classmates in the class, including me, received debt collection calls. In the dormitory, Qing knelt before me and implored me piteously. Cici, could you lend me some funds? Their interest is exorbitant. I am utterly incapable of repaying it. I inquired of her calmly. When you solicited the loan, were you cognizant that you could not repay it? I was aware. Thus, Qing, why should I assume responsibility for your errors? Because you are affluent. I kicked Qing aside. Qing, is it truly the case that as long as one is shameless, other people's wealth can also be one's own? Qing remained mute, yet when she departed, she glared at me malevolently. I vaguely sensed that something was about to transpire. In the ensuing 2 days, I was somewhat vigilant of Qing. My father frequently instructed me that I cannot harm others, yet I cannot refrain from safeguarding myself against others. However, I still failed to guard against her. When I returned from class on the 3rd day, the dormitory was in disarray. The cash that Chun-Lu and Li Zhao had placed in the cabinet had vanished. My jewelry had been purloined, including the necklace that Qin Chushi had bestowed upon me. I did not vacillate and telephoned the police directly. In less than a day, Qing was apprehended. At that time she was preparing to resell my jewelry. The day she returned to the school dormitory to identify me, she beheld me and said venomously, "Xia Cici, why were you born into a wealthy second-generation family? Why do I possess not?" I regarded her calmly. "Qing, are you cognizant? My mother became acquainted with you long ago." I informed her that I had made a good friend and roommate, named Qing. She is highly meticulous, not haughty, exceedingly gentle and patient. My mother said that after I graduate, I shall repair to the company to assist and permit you to accompany me. When I assume control of the company in the future, I shall require an assistant. Qing, are you cognizant of the annual salary of an assistant in my father's company? I made a 7 gesture, and Qing's pupils constricted. I sighed. Qing, if all your efforts and sentiments are genuine, then you can obtain what you covet. Whether it is with me or with Xia, yet your sentiments are feigned. Why should you receive rewards? 21. Qing was apprehended. The necklace bestowed upon me by Qin Chushi was exceedingly costly. He procured it from an auction abroad, and it was valued at 5 million. Qing will be unable to extricate herself for several years. Her tale elicited sighs from all. However, even thus, it cannot impede the passage of time that is gradually elapsing. At the conclusion of the first semester of my senior year, on the first day of the winter vacation, Qin Chushi arranged for Grandpa Qin to rendezvous with my parents. This encounter was highly ceremonious. In addition to deliberating on the nuptials, Qin Chushi also produced a contract. The content was approximately that if he should perish, all the property under his name would devolve upon me. I was astounded. I had heard my father mention the Qin family previously. The Qin family must possess more assets than my family. How could he bequeath all the property to me? I opened my mouth to dissuade him, yet Grandpa Qin smiled and said, "What are you impeding? Cici, if you are disinclined, you can strive arduously to beget a great-granddaughter for me, and then you can permit her to administer the Qin family correct." My countenance suddenly flushed, and I grasped Qin Chushi's hand. It signified that he should halt Grandpa Qin. As a result, he nodded and said, "Yes, this night Cici and I shall exert ourselves." My father's visage was darkened. However, my mother smiled with great felicity. After departing from my abode, Qin Chushi instructed someone to post an announcement on the homepage of the Qin Group website. It was presumably the content of the agreement. However, he emphasized a single sentence. "The agreement shall come into effect after the wedding." I felt highly peculiar. "Qin Chushi, there is patently no such sentence in the agreement?" Qin Chushi pinched my visage. "Yes, yet some individuals are ignorant of it." His words induced me to feel inexplicably perturbed. I inquired of Qin Chushi if he was concealing something from me, and he smiled and caressed my pate. "Yes. However, Cici, now is not the opportune moment to disclose it to you." The following day, several individuals barged into the Qin family abode. They were the families of Qin Chushi's second uncle and third uncle. The two families commenced quarreling as soon as they entered, alleging that Qin Chushi was demented, and that he had actually bestowed his property upon an outsider rather than bequeathing it to his own kin. Qin Chushi enjoined me to remain in the chamber and refrain from emerging, and he descended the stairs to resolve the quandary. After a while, he was escorted back by the servants with a pallid visage. Grandpa Qin's irate voice emanated from the living room. "Chushi is the heir of the Qin family. The entire Qin family belongs to Chushi. He can bestow it upon whomever he desires. None of you can interfere. Father, you are befuddled. We apprised you not to bequeath the Qin family to Qin Chushi, a sickly individual. Now it is all in a muddle. The Qin family is scarcely recognizable as belonging to the Qin family anymore. Be gone. Grandpa Qin expelled the two families. I pivoted my head to regard Qin Chusher. His expression was so frigid. I walked over and embraced him. I could indistinctly sense his form trembling. He enfolded me in his arms in return. Soon, Cece, everything will be concluded ere long. 22. My nuptials with Qin Chusher were slated for the 31st of that month. The 30th was the anniversary of the demise of Qin Chushi's parents. Qin Chusher entreated me to remain at home and await his return. He desired to visit his parents. I yearned to accompany him, yet he precluded me. After he drove away, I paced to and fro in the chamber. I felt something was amiss regardless of how I contemplated it. I had heard about his parents' affairs. It was averred that they perished in a vehicular accident. It was innocuous for him to pay his respects to his parents. Yet why must the wedding be held on the day subsequent to the anniversary of their death? And why, when the agreement patently did not stipulate that it would come into effect after the wedding, did he inscribe this sentence in the notice? It seemed that this sentence was intended for someone to overhear. Grandpa Qin was seated on the principal seat on the sofa. He was also highly tranquil today. He kept his eyes closed. He seemed to be anticipating something. Grandpa Qin. My voice was tremulous. I seated myself beside him. Grandpa Qin. He will not be imperiled, will he? Grandpa Qin opened his eyes and regarded me. Have no concerns. He cherishes you so profoundly that he will return in safety. My tears immediately cascaded. I desired to venture outside to seek Qin Chusher, yet the door was locked by the servant. I was unable to exit. Grandpa Qin said, Cece, I pledged to Chusher that I would assist him in watching over you and ensure that naught befell you. My tears streamed even more copiously. Grandpa Qin invited me to sit beside him. Cece, permit me to recount a tale to you. It transpired that Grandpa Qin and Qin Chusher were cognizant that there was something suspicious about the vehicular accident involving Qin Chushi's parents, because the truck driver's route that day was not on that thoroughfare, and he tarried at the intersection for over 10 minutes and missed several green lights. However, the driver also perished in this accident, and there was no superfluous colossal sum of money deposited into his and his family's bank accounts. In the end, this incident was still designated as an ordinary traffic accident. Qin Chusher was less than 6 years of age at that time. He was fortunate that he was not in the vehicle, yet he was still terrified and contracted a high fever. Grandpa Qin was perpetually apprehensive about the car accident, and thus he enjoined Qin Chusher to feign illness. In this manner, Qin Chusher became a renowned invalid in the Beijing social circle. He had a minor ailment every 5 days and a major affliction every 3 days. At the age of 13, he journeyed abroad for treatment, and tidings of his critical illness emerged from time to time. A multitude of events have transpired over the years. Grandpa Qin said, We are all certain that the culprit is proximate, and his objective is the Qin family's property. I wept even more vehemently. Thus presently, is not Qin Chusher in great peril? Grandpa Qin nodded. Yes, yet I implore you to believe that he will assuredly return. Grandpa Qin said, Cece, for your sake, he will also endure. You are aware that he has persevered for so many years, yet he could not restrain himself in your affairs. I was truly astonished when I beheld him convey you back that day and declare that you had obtained the marriage certificate. This rascal. I am ignorant of how long he has been yearning for you. After Grandpa Qin had concluded speaking, I desisted from inquiring. I merely seated myself on the sofa and awaited him. Time elapsed with great slowness. 1 second after another passed with excruciating tardiness. It was noon and Qin Chusher had not returned. It was afternoon, and he still had not returned. It was dusk and he remained absent. Grandpa Qin and I sat together from the evening until the early hours of the following day. The door was finally rapped. My legs were enfeebled. This was the first time I had been so terrified to open the door. The servant stepped forward before me, and I halted her. I shall do it. I advanced step by step, beseeching in my heart that my first encounter be safe. I opened the door tremulously. As I had wished, I beheld Qin Chushi's countenance. I wept and flung myself into his arms. He smiled and said, Madam, it is fortuitous that you did not miss our wedding. End of the main text. Qin Chushi's extra chapter. After matrimony, Xia Cece was invariably importuning me and inquiring when I had fallen in love with her. When was it? I am unable to specify precisely. When I was 5 years of age, she was born and resided opposite my abode. The neighbors in the vicinity were cognizant that the Xia family had a fair and plump little lass who was disinclined to weep, was especially fond of laughing, and could not be induced to cry, regardless of how she was teased. At that time I was still feigning illness at home, and I invariably beheld adults teasing her. My grandfather was among them. I was highly disgruntled. Owing to feigning illness, I could only engage in many deeds clandestinely. She was so felicitous. Why was she so jubilant? One day, she was placed in a perambulator and basking in the sun downstairs. Whilst her mother was entering, I surreptitiously descended. I deemed that I am highly capable and could assuredly induce her to weep. I stationed myself before her, glowered at her, hollered at her, and made faces at her. Then she smiled. I was stupefied when she smiled. I had hitherto beheld her smiling from a distance and had never realized. She was so endearing when she smiled. Then, surreptitiously teasing her when the adults were inattentive became one of my pleasures. When she was 5 years old, a little lad named Xiechun relocated next door to her abode. He was of the same age as her. They delighted in playing together, and the adults even jested together, saying that they were both highly comely and ought to become betrothed as children. I was so incensed that I denuded all the cabbages planted by my aunt at home. Manifestly I am also a child and manifestly I am more comely. Why could I not become betrothed as a child with Xia Sisi? Owing to this brat Xia-chan, I had less time to surreptitiously tease Xia Sisi. I could only conceal myself in the chamber and clandestinely observe them. Humph, the two of them playing house together. Humph, Xia Sisi actually kissed that accursed lad Xia-chan on the visage. Humph, Xia Sisi, you little minx, how could you engage in the daddy and mommy game with him? Your husband resides on the building opposite you. Later my grandfather conveyed me abroad. I engaged a private detective and entreated him to furnish me with some intelligence regarding Xia Sisi at intervals. Although I was not in China, I grew up with her just as if I were by her side. She also appeared highly comely, and was as happy as I had envisioned. The sole blemish was that she had execrable taste. She actually cherished Xia-chan. Xia-chan was also like a tenacious adhesive. When the Xia family relocated, they also accompanied them and resided diagonally opposite the Xia family. Humph. Finally, I learned that they were going to become betrothed. Nay, I could not abide it. Grandfather, I yearned to return to China, recapture everything that belongs to me. And Xia Sisi. On the day I returned to China, Xia Sisi was jilted by Xia-chan. Damn it, although you are unworthy of my Sisi, you are even less entitled to jilt her, is that not so? I engaged a hacker, furnished him with Xia Sisi's mobile phone number, and entreated him to fabricate a pop-up advertisement that only she could behold. If she did not telephone me, I would seek her in person. In brief, my Xia Sisi cannot be bullied by anyone. She lost her fiancé, and thus I shall bestow upon her a husband who cherishes her most in the world. When did I fall in love with Xia Sisi? I informed her that I had fallen in love with her at first sight, although she did not believe it. However, I shall still refrain from divulging the truth to her. I am apprehensive that she will become overly conceited. Well, Xia Sisi, I love you unconsciously deeply. End of the full text.